Here's an important question for you. Is foreign funding of American universities partially, if not majorly, responsible for the rise of anti-Semitism and other left-wing ideologies across those campuses in the United States? That's the question House Republicans are seeking an answer to, in part through legislation passed this week creating new reporting requirements regarding foreign funding to U.S. educational institutions. Why are Qatar, China, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates pouring so much money into our schools? Joining me live now to discuss this, the National Legal and Policy Center lead counsel Paul Kamenar. Paul, nice to see you again.
Thank you very much, Steve. Good to see you.
You know, Dwight Eisenhower, when he was leaving the White House in his farewell address, he talked about how money could negatively influence colleges and universities in America. He wasn't even conceiving of this. You know, tens of millions of dollars flowing in from communist China, for example. It has to have an impact, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And the total amount coming from all these countries in a report released the other day is 15.7 billion with a B. And the study showed that the universities who got money from countries such as Qatar, Saudi Arabia, China, and so forth, that the anti-Semitism on those campuses rose 300% more than the other campuses that did give this money. Now, to be sure, that's a correlation. It doesn't prove causation, but we all know how this money is done and sent to influence the education of those in university. And as you know, the National Legal Policy Center went after China for giving some $70 million to the University of Pennsylvania and the Penn Biden Center, and to persuade them to be soft on China. And it turns out that that was the case.
Yeah. You know, we've got the Confucius Institutes that have been around, you know, and for a while, it sounded like a good idea. We've got the Confucius Institutes. You know, I'm not too far from Michigan State University or the University of Michigan or several other state-based institutions here in the state of Michigan where I live. They all have large populations of foreign students, foreign money flowing in for a variety of reasons. You know, a lot of these kids from China, for example, they show up, they all drive fancy sports cars. I'm talking Maseratis and so forth, college kids, right? So a lot of money pours in, and that has to have an impact. There's just no two ways about it. And then these kids, whether they're from China, wherever they are, many of them just leave. They learn everything they can. They stuff their brains in and their notebooks full of facts and figures and American know-how and leave, not to help America, but to help their countries compete and defeat America. That's the problem.
Well, it's worse than that, Steve, because some of these Chinese students were actually arrested for being spies for stealing Department of Defense secrets at universities that have military contracts with these universities. And so the Department of Justice instituted what's called a China Initiative to try to ferret out these basically student spies in our universities. And you know what happened to that? The University of Pennsylvania had 155 professors send a letter to Mayor Garland and say, "How dare you have this China Initiative? That's racial profiling." So Mayor Garland said, "Oh, okay, we'll cancel that." I mean, this is what's going on, Steve. It's despicable.
So what are we to do? You know, us out here in the hinterlands who can see what's happening, realize what's happening, see reports like the one we're doing right now, Paul, and discuss it, and people know. Every honest person knows that all this money's coming in. Follow the money. It's an old adage for a good reason. If you want a certain outcome, you punch enough money into it, you're going to get the outcome you paid for. That's the intention anyway. What can we do?
Well, unfortunately, you can't do too much at the grassroots level except lobby your member of Congress to have some oversight hearings and all of this and to change the law. Some of that is now going on, but you know the Democrats will be pushing back on that. So we need to have these investigations just like we have with the Hunter Biden payoffs and so forth with Comar and Jordan on the judiciary committees and so forth. So we need to have Congress to really crack down on this because it's really despicable.
Yeah. Well, we're going to be talking to Jim Jordan here in a few minutes in the program. Maybe I can touch base on that. Paul, always appreciate your insights. Yeah, I'm going to do that. Paul Kavanaugh, thank you for being here. All right, coming up after the break, the Biden administration is considering giving $10 billion more to Iran. Genius plan. We'll look into that next here on America's Voice Live.